Welcome back to Sofa Science, and today I am joined by Kallie Moore.
Yes.
And first question, as all first questions go, who are you?
Oh, hello. So I am a co-host on PBS Eons, so also filmed here in-house. And I'm also the collections manager, so like a fossil librarian for the University of Montana Paleontology Center here in Missoula.
Welcome to the paleontological firestorm that is LHPV-18. That's the name of a dinosaur specimen that paleontologists have been studying and drawing totally different conclusions about for almost a decade. Depending on how you interpret the evidence, you may say that this dinosaur is just one of many specimens of a theropod called Tarbosaurus bata, probably a juvenile. Or you might say that it's the original and currently only specimen of an entirely different theropod named Raptorix krigsteini.
How'd you get started?
Man. Well, I've always really liked fossils ever since I was a kid. I grew up in Kansas where there's a lot of fossiliferous limestone, so finding all of these little shells and crinoids and stuff was like part of my youth. And then it just kind of snowballed, I guess, from there to college, and I studied geology and paleontology at Emporia State University in southeastern Kansas.
Okay.
And I did a bunch of random projects while I was in undergrad, and then I applied for this job up here, and I got it, and like, what? So I had like 4 weeks to move to Montana.
Wow.
In January.
So what exactly is your title with the university then?
So collections manager.
What does that mean?
So that means like, I'm like a fossil librarian. So basically everything that a librarian does, I do with fossils. So they have a number, and that number corresponds with data, and it has a safe place, and I keep them conserved so they're not falling apart or anything like that, and try to make them as accessible as possible to researchers and the public. And
I was going to say, on a day-to-day basis, I imagine the fossils aren't like walking out of their shelving. So was everything already filed and categorized once you got there? Or?
Some of it was.
Okay.
Some of it was. Some of it was not at all even remotely cataloged or inventoried or anything. So we're slowly working our way through it and getting collections curated. So we just like work on one for however long it takes to get done, and then we move on to the next one. The other thing that's rolled into is a full specimen inventory. So it hasn't been completed yet either, just finding out everything that we have and making sure that the information that's on the little card and the label with the specimen matches the database. So we do have an online database. And getting images of our specimens online as well, so people can actually see what it looks like, you know, especially with the stuff that we don't exactly know what it is.
Like, just post it. It's what I do. It's like, I don't know, let's post it on Twitter and see what happens.
Maybe somebody knows. And the paleo community is strong, especially on Instagram too. So that's actually a really great place. If you had something that you needed to be identified, posting that.
On Instagram?
Instagram, yeah.
Who knew?
Yeah, and fossils, I feel, lend themselves well. They're pretty aesthetic, you know? So it kind of, Instagram, if there was any science that Instagram
well, they no
was
longer
made
have
for.
a smell or a behavior, so it's all pretty much in the visuals.
Just like, look at it, it's great. This is what we can tell.
It must be kind of crazy, though, to think that there are things in your collection that you don't even know you have in your collection.
Yeah, I get surprised by things every once in a while. I've been there for about 10 years now, and I've gone through every single case, and so I would be real shocked if I saw something that I was like, what? I had no idea we had this. But
what is the most surprising find within the cabinet?
So we have 3 tiers of big cases, and to get to the 3rd tier, you need this big giant ladder, and it's kind of cumbersome. And so I very rarely go up to the 3rd tier. So whenever I do, that is the place that I get shocked the most, where I'm like, oh, I didn't know we had that. Oh.
Is it like a ranking? So first tier is your bog standard fossils, and then 3rd tier is like top quality fossils, or the other way around?
No, it's sometimes based on usage. So something that's being used all the time and is pretty, pretty usable, I guess, is on the bottom tier. That and heavy stuff. So we try to put the heavier stuff in the lower to the ground cases.
That makes sense.
So otherwise, it's just kind of arbitrary based on locality and age and things like that. So, but yeah, so the 3rd tier, I was up there one day and found what is one of my favorite. I have many favorite specimens.
Yeah, which is good because I'm sure you get asked it all the time.
Oh yeah, many favorite specimens, but one of them is this partially articulated tortoise leg, like the lower half of the leg.
Yeah.
And tortoise have these things called osteoderms. They're like little bony plates underneath the skin, and almost every single one of them is articulated. Like it's just the way it would have looked on this. Yeah, and that was pretty cool because we have another one in the collection, but it's not as good. And this one was really spectacular.
Yeah.
With all the little osteoderms.
Go to a fossil. Yeah. The good stuff.
The good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of big giant stuff and full mounts of dinosaurs or anything like that. We do specialize into the smaller items, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, and it means you can have more of them.
Yeah, and I don't need a warehouse to house them and things like that. It makes it a little easier.
So you've gone from doing paleontology to what sounds like your dream job of just working with fossils all day.
Yeah, so working with fossils all day is really great. I could not imagine my life without fossils in them some way or another. So working with Eons too has been even it's like the icing on the cake.
Yeah, so how did that transition happen?
I happen to be I talk with my hands a lot in Missoula, and I'm like the only person that does it about fossils. So I think it was like a coincidence. But
wait, so who found? I'm guessing you weren't applying for a job.
No, I was actually at the Children's Museum. Okay. I was doing a dinosaur activity or something, and Caitlin Hoffmeister happened to be in the building. Yeah. And she was like, "Hey, you got kind of like a fun job. Do you want to be on SciShow Talk Show and talk to Hank about your job?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Did you know anything about SciShow or Complexly at the time?
I was familiar. I had grabbed some SciShow bits for PowerPoints and stuff like that. You know, the usual, I guess, for this sort of thing. And I was also familiar with Emily Grassley while she was here, and so I kind of watched her rise through her own show, and then through Complexly, and then onto the Field Museum. And so I knew, but I didn't know. I didn't
know what it was like. Yeah.
I didn't know, and so
Caitlin ropes you in to do an episode of SciShow.
Yeah, and so I did SciShow Talk Show, and it was like the longest one they ever had because I guess there was no silence, there was no awkward silence. Me and Hank just like about fossils the whole time, and they were like, "Hey, that was pretty good. We have this idea for a show, but." We don't it's not there yet. Like, would you be remotely interested in this show that doesn't exist? And I was like, yeah, sure, yeah. And fast forward a year, I get an email from Blake, and he's like, "Hey, we got funding. This is happening. It's going."
Oh, wow. So from your perspective, it was a one-off, and then you kind of didn't say no to the idea of more video work.
I pretty much so written it off. I was like, this isn't good. It's been a year. This isn't going to happen, And then it did. And then it was like, when can we get you into the studio and start filming and reading off teleprompters? And I did do a couple of screen tests afterwards, and I could do it. And so they were like, "Oh yeah, you should be one of our hosts." And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be great, but how?" Yeah, so it's getting easier for sure.
What was the hardest thing you learned about? Because the stuff that you're doing is talking directly to camera. It's not this sort of talk show, which is so much more natural and so much easier.
Yeah, and I had been behind the camera a little bit before, so I guess in front of the camera. There we go. Behind the camera is working the camera. In front of the camera. There we go. I gotta get my lingo straight.
Yes.
So, a few little interviews here and there on the campus news or something like that. Yeah. So it wasn't completely foreign, but definitely.
That was talking to you as a research scientist rather than you being a presenter or being a host.
Yeah, so performing basically. So the hardest thing is definitely the names, because just because I'm in paleontology doesn't mean I'm an expert at every single ancient form of life there ever has been. And
funny that
pronouncing those names, oh god, I can't wait until they release a blooper reel for Eons, because I've joked with some of the guys that do all of the production for it. And I was like, if you could make one long beep of all of my curse words, like how long would that go on for? How long of a consistent beep would it be?
Yeah.
And they just laugh and laugh because it has to be really long. So those names, ooh.
Yeah.
But now we're finding new ways to work around them, or like
The dinosaur that shall not be named.
yeah, type of thing, like this guy, and just have the name come up on screen.
Oh, nice.
Or, not, if we're only talking about one genus species, not adding that species name,
Yeah.
if we're not getting that technical, we can always show it on screen. Putting the names at the beginning of the sentence so you don't get through like an entire paragraph of text and then like,
Yeah.
that's probably the most heartbreaking one of all time. So yeah, just little things like that have been really interesting. I'm finally able to read a teleprompter scrolling though.
Yeah, that's impressive.
We got there.
It is really hard to read, we call them auto cues, but to read them naturally and not make it look
Like
or
you're
sound
reading it.
like you're just reading off
It's so
the script. Yeah.
Yeah, every once in a while Nick will be like, no, it sounded like you read that.
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's like, because I did.
I did read it.
There's no way I've remembered all of this in such a short space of time.
No, not at all. If I had to memorize my scripts, nope.
And how many scripts do you film a day, or is it like spread out, the filming?
Well, since we have 3 different hosts, I think every single host films 1 episode every week.
Okay.
So I film every 2 weeks, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes more, sometimes less. Like Hank can read much faster than Blake and I because he's Hank Green.
Yes.
And so he can film 2 scripts at a time if we have 2 scripts
Yeah.
ready. The other thing is that Eon's scripts are like mini research papers. I mean,
Yeah.
they are intense sometimes. And so the amount of time that goes into it that builds a script is enormous. It's crazy how long it takes to build a script out and have this beautiful story arc that Blake puts in. And
Yeah, talk me through the kind of the formation of a video. So firstly, who comes up with the ideas?
so the writers usually pitch scripts, and we have a lot of really great science writers, and a lot of them are actually professionals in their field, either teaching somewhere or used to teach somewhere. So they make brilliant scripts, but a lot of times they do write much more scientifically than this eloquent story style. So they'll pitch something to Blake, and Blake tries to figure out if there is that story arc, if we can make this into a beginning, middle, and end type of thing. And so they work and build it up and build it up and build it up.
So does that make him story editor, producer?
He does all the things.
Okay, yeah.
I call him the script keeper because that's basically he does everything with the scripts and makes sure that they're good. We do have another script editor now, which has taken a little bit of the pressure off of Blake, because he not only works on Eons, he works on Crash Course and all the
he produces a lot of shows out of this building.
Yes, he does. So they work together, or our other script editor works with the writer to build this story. Once the script is like, I would say about 80% like ready to go, it comes to me for fact checking. So I go through and check all the numbers, try to check all the numbers.
Do you check just your scripts, or do you check
Everybody's.
all 3 of you? Okay.
Yep. So I always have a script to work on every week, sometimes 2 scripts to work on a week. And then so I go through and I try to fact check everything. Sometimes I miss stuff and I feel horrible. Oh, it's like the worst feeling in the world.
It's fine though, because they will let you know.
Oh no, they do.
Don't feel like misinformation is being spread, because my God, they will let you know when you get something wrong.
Yes, and we have a couple of times gotten stuff wrong. Sometimes something got pulled out in pruning of editing by accident, and then the sentence wasn't restructured to make sense again, So
what was that like going from, because in an academic background, everything has to be absolutely spot on, but also you kind of have more checks in place to make sure that something
and it's much
doesn't get through.
slower.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, we're pumping out something for publication in like 2 to 3 months, going from like, here's an idea to finished product in like 3 months. And science does not work that fast. You go through 3 months of revisions on a paper.
Easily, yeah.
And so I think that's just the thing, the speed of it and how technical these scripts are.
And from a personal perspective, how was that, trying to retrain your attitude towards getting things wrong?
It feels horrible, but you get past it because you're just like, God, when it's something like, oh, it got pruned out and it just didn't get edited right, or we said it's like tyrannosaurid and tyrannosauroid or something like that, just a little misspoke and we didn't get it, or we put the wrong name on screen. Those little things, that doesn't hurt me as much as like getting like a foundational thing absolutely wrong. So there was a really controversial one that we did about Raptorex. And so Raptorex is a tough specimen in and of itself. It's such a tough specimen, we actually did an entire extra episode just about this specimen.
Wow.
And because everybody just freaked out about it, because there are two very different ways of thinking about the specimen and how old it is and what that means for Tyrannosaurid evolution. And so we went one way and the other way let us know. And it was like kind of like all of a sudden this panic, like, oh my God, did we get something foundationally wrong with the script? Turns out, no, not technically.
It's just an alternative.
It's just an alternative. And so should we have maybe gone on a little bit more about how Raptorex was controversial? Probably. But we have finite amount of time to talk about everything. So a lot of times the details can get pruned if it's not on the track of the episode. If it's a little tangent, if it's important, but it's not, we're trying to keep our episodes around 10 minutes now. I think every single episode has kind of balanced its way out to about 10 minutes. And that helps on the production side. So just a longer episode is more work for the production team. And so keeping them a little bit shorter and a little bit more to the point has been kind of our goal thus far. So
you, going back to the timeline, you proofread the scripts, and then you come into the studios in Missoula. Yeah,
so we shoot on a green screen. It's super easy. I kind of wish we had a fun little setup, and also I could wear the green scales of clothing as well, because that has been tough. And we also have a dark background, and I love me some dark clothing, and I can't wear dark clothes. I can't wear teal or green. And so that was another really hard part for me, at least, is
learning clothing. I mean, you can't have any very fine stripes either. So I imagine some of the design on your squirrel, that will probably be
the teal itself. Anytime I do a podcast, I almost always wear something with green on it that I can't wear. I can do it. Yeah. And so, it goes proofreading, and then we're actually 2 doors down on the other side of the hallway. And so we shoot on a green screen.
And you film one episode.
We film one episode, and it usually takes, I've gotten down to about, our 10-minute episodes take me about an hour to read.
Okay.
So it used to be a little longer, much longer. And there are some scripts that do take longer. When we were talking about flight evolution, I think, or birds with teeth or something. The bird lineage has the worst names. Soul-crushing names. So that one took almost 2 hours to read. And I was exhausted.
I can imagine.
My brain was like, I can't function anymore for the rest of the day.
And who else is in the room with you? Have you got someone behind the camera?
Yeah, so Nick is usually behind the camera, and Nicole is script supervising. So Nicole Sweeney. She's yelling out, no, in the background, because I like to add words a lot and make singulars, plurals, and all sorts of wonderful things your brain does while you're trying to read out loud. So she's watching to make sure I say the right thing and say the words correctly.
That's always handy.
Yeah, nobody ever corrects you, and I feel like, some people do correct you when you say something incorrectly or pronounce something incorrectly, but I think a lot of times everybody's like, whatever. The moment is gone. And so, when you're reading a script, they let you know when you mispronounce something stupid. I don't even know. I have a lot of words and I'm just like, why can't I say this? So.
And it sounds like kind of in your day job, you've been doing a fair amount of science communication to the public.
Yeah.
How does that differ to camera skills? Was there anyone sit you down and say, okay, so this is how the camera interacts with your face, and hand movements are going to be exaggerated, facial movements are going to be minimized. Do you want to do this?
I guess I was kind of more natural with it already. When I give a tour, I'm usually giving a tour to kids. And so I feel like that exaggerated motion with kids is basically what you have to do on camera. And so my natural tour giving, arm waving, like worked really well on camera. It was learning how to read a script where when we first started, it was like read something and then read something and pause and read something and pause. And so learning how to run sentences together with pauses in between. So you end a sentence and start a sentence in the same cadence, but there's a pause.
Yeah.
So instead of reading every sentence like a new paragraph, I guess.
Okay.
That was interesting. And Nick is really great about like, oh, can you do it like this? Or go up in a question mark at the end of this, or stumble over your words here. Like, don't always look at the camera. Like, if something is weird, be like, it's so weird. Look up, you know? And so there's a lot of little tricks and things, but I think most of my enthusiasm, I guess, it was already there because I have to work with kids so often.
And then I guess someone else is doing all the editing and because it's so stock footage, then green screening, your animation.
And that's been a huge part of it too, is just finding images for this stuff. Because some of it has only been like, there is a piece of jaw. That's all we know of this specimen that is a part of this script. And so we need to contact that museum, those writers, those researchers. And usually it's like, the finding the images has been definitely one of the bottleneck areas.
I'm interested that you're involved in that. I assumed that would just be like an editor's job.
So one of our guys, so we film it all here and then we send this massive file, these massive multi-gigabyte files to Indianapolis. And that's where it's all put together, is in Indy. And one of the guys in Indy, Seth, he does a lot of the image searching. So he's putting together the episode. And so but there's a lot of input from myself and the writer about, if we said, oh, these dinosaurs lived alongside, well, what kinds of dinosaurs would have lived alongside?
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I try to find that stuff when I'm script editing, or if I come across a paper that has that figure that we should try to get, I try to link those in to help the process. But our other editor, Megan and Seth, are kind of like the spearheaders now for images. And so they contact the researchers in the museums as soon as possible. So usually when I get the script to fact check, Seth also gets the script to start putting together the episode for images, because scientists are busy people, and 2-week turnaround time for a specimen image can kind of be, not ever happening. So we need to give them time. We need to give the collections time to get those images to us. And when we have been able to give them enough time, oh my God, they just give us so much. They're just like, oh, take it all. Here's all these images. Yes. And so,
and I suppose that's interesting because that is you in your day job. People coming to you for these images.
So I know it. I usually try to be quick with my turnaround with images. Research immediately gets put on top of everything else. If a researcher contacts me, no matter what I'm working on, unless I'm working on somebody else's research, like that immediately goes to the top of my list. And I start working on their stuff, getting that loan together, getting those images together that they need for research. Because I know if I rush and get these off to you, it may be 5 years before you ever publish anything. But hey, who cares? 5 years, we'll have another publication for our collection. So I just try to get that stuff out quick. But we're relatively small. When you're talking about like the Smithsonian or the American Museum of Natural History, where they have millions and millions of specimens, then
just finding it must take you a good day.
Yeah, exactly. So I will try to give them as much time. So then they start putting together the episode, finding the images. I help where I can. And the sound is done. I think Seth does the music too. And he just uses, I think it's like AMR. I don't have to double check. But anyways, and they figure it out.
And then you have final approval on the edit?
Yeah, so we usually get drafts as it's coming together. Like some of the bigger animations that go on, we'll just have like a little under construction thing. So we check everything else before those get done. Then we usually see it final, and PBS sees it final about the same time. We would really like to get our episodes to them earlier than we have been, but it's just been a struggle. I don't think anybody kind of could foresee all of the bottlenecks with Eons.
I think scientific animations are incredibly hard. I mean, animation in itself is incredibly hard and painstaking work, and I'm so glad that I don't have to do that for a living. You'll notice there are very few animations in my videos. But then animators very rarely have scientific backgrounds, so then adding scientific accuracy on top of what is already an incredibly hard task.
Oh man, yeah, and luckily we've hooked up with a paleo artist, Franz Anthony. So if you've seen our Eons posters that are available on DFTBA, and if you've seen it, all that artwork was done by Franz. Franz. I hope I said his name.
Yeah,
it's
great that you're getting original artwork though. That must be really fun.
And it's kept the episodes congruent, we look very similar going through. So it looks pretty too. Yeah. So, and he does great artwork. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. I remember when we first came together as a team and it was like thinking about, well, what are we going to do if we can't find these images? Yeah. Or really after the first couple of episodes, we realized like, oh, this is going to be a little bit more difficult than we anticipated. And so we had a small budget to be able to commission some artwork here and there. And so I was like, oh, there's this thing called 252. You should check out 252. And they did. And then and Franz is kind of in charge of all that. And so yeah, he does a lot of our artwork. We have a sloth episode coming up that nobody has ever reconstructed these sloths. Like and that is a couple of cases with Eons. Like we are the first ones to show you what this thing might have looked like.
Do you then publish that?
I don't think so. We haven't yet. Oh, maybe we should.
Just as I don't know what the paleontology field is like, but just as we've tried to do the best we can to reconstruct this. Here you go.
Well, yeah, we use all of the scientific papers. Yeah. I mean, Franz is a paleo artist. Yeah. Like that's what he does. He reads the papers, he does the work, and we do have a couple of other artists that, there's a few other artists out there that are really specialized. And so we try to go to them whenever we have those types of animals that we want to show, because 9 times out of 10, they've already done it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it is interesting. I haven't thought about that, because some of these would be, oh God. Well,
because it's like discovering a new species. You will get like this tiny little brief article just to be like, we found this thing. Like that's all we have to say, but we think that people want to know about it.
See, we have kind of a pie in the sky dream to partner with larger grant givers, so like NSF, and let them know that we're available.
National Science Foundation, it's American science charity thing, government thing.
It is, I know, and it's still alive, thank goodness. It's still funding. But anyways, if we could let them know that Eons is a thing. Oh, you got paleo research, so a lot of part of these big grants is how do you get it out? How do you tell people about this great science that we funded? And so being able to get in with researchers before they write the grant, so we're written into the grant. So then in that case, we would be building an episode around their research, and they would be a part of it, and we would be a part of it, and then, hiring our paleo artists to do the reconstruction for the episode could then also be used for their research and the publication and the cover article.
Yeah, that's a lot of the route I want to go down as well.
Yeah.
So if you are a research team and are interested in hiring some people to do the, it's not outreach, they call it impact.
Yes.
The impact section of your grant.
Impact.
Let us know. It's all about that impact.
Yes, that impact. Yeah, and so how cool would that be?
It would, yeah.
For Eons to be able to release this really cool episode working directly with.
Yeah. And you would have the first, you would be the cutting line of science. You would get the news before anyone else because you would have been working on it all the way up to it.
So it would be more of a long game episode, obviously, but it would be nice that researchers knew that we were totally on board for that. And that would also make Eons grant funded too. And so that would help us with our...
Yeah, so what is the funding system and what is the relationship between PBS and Complexly?
So it's about the same as Crash Course. So Crash Course is its own thing now. It's basically self-funded, but it was started with seed with PBS money. So that's how Eons is. So Eons got started mostly through funding with PBS, and then it shot and produced and everything through Complexly. So Complexly does SciShow and Sexplanations and all of the things.
Yeah.
Basically anybody that's on YouTube. No, sure.
Any science-ish channels that are somewhat related to John or Hank Green are Complexly channels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that makes Eons one, but it is a PBS show. So we're under so I guess it's PBS Eons.
Yes. And you put adverts on your videos?
We do.
Okay.
Is
that a big revenue stream?
I don't know. I'm basically
you don't worry about the money.
No.
That's
fair. I just do my thing, and it's good. So yeah, I'm assuming we get revenue from that. We're basically just trying to get self-funded now. Yeah. So self-funding just basically means that you can just do this. You don't have to worry about PBS's funding and being able to fund you. And then they can fund other cool shows too. So we're getting there. We've got a Patreon now, so people can help that way, and merch on DFTBA. So we're slowly getting there.
Yeah. And what's it been like putting your face on the internet?
That's been okay. It's mostly my voice that has been the hard part. Like listening to my voice online is just like, oh, it's the worst. And I know it's not even the worst, like, I don't want to say Fran Drescher has an awful voice, but like on the soothe scale, she's, soothe.
Who is this person?
Oh, I don't know. She's got a really nasally voice.
Okay. Yeah.
If you got any American fans, they'll be like, oh yeah, I don't think I would want to listen to that for an entire hour, But it hasn't been too bad. The hardest part has been the comments. So before, we got everything kind of filtered out on the channel, reading comments was like the worst.
What do you mean by getting things filtered out?
So with YouTube, you can have banned words.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, so just basically already filtering those horrible comments before anybody has to even see them.
Do you read the comments?
Sometimes I do. I'll go through. Blake usually moderates the comments for about an hour or two after we post on Tuesdays, and looks for anything, because people let you know if you did something wrong, and they let you know very quickly if you've done something wrong. So that's mainly what we're looking at, is just making sure there's no confusion. We've had a couple of times where we said something in the episode that wasn't incorrect, but it was really confusing or needed some clarification. So we'll usually like pin a comment really quickly to the top, just be like, oh, there's this one spot, it sounds weird. This is what we meant, and this is how we should have said it, So that's what we're looking for usually. Most of our comments now are pretty positive. We've got a pretty positive comment section now, but it took some time. So those early days were rough, and it kind of burned me, and I don't really want to get into the comments anymore. I don't want to know. I don't want to know about it anymore, because What
was so rough about it in the beginning?
They're just horrible. Like, people talk about every part of your body. The hardest part for me, actually, was that I have 2 male co-hosts. And
I was going to ask how it differs between you,
like night and day. I mean, the gross, nasty, perverted stuff that was said on my episodes that were not showing up on Hank and Blake's was just like, what? Why?
Yeah.
Why is it okay for you to say that stuff about me?
And I think it's so interesting, because I can always compare like the comments on my channel to someone else's channel, but when you've got multiple hosts on a single channel, you're all on it the same amount. Okay, let's ignore Hank, because like everyone from going on to Eons will already know who he is. But Blake's not so much of a well-known face. So like his comments and your comments should be pretty similar.
And they're not.
And they're not.
I mean, I'm sure Blake gets it. you know, a little bit, but like, I mean, like we've had to change jokes in the scripts in apprehension of comments. For me specifically, like the writer didn't know who was going to actually film the episode. And then it comes down to like, oh, this will be Callie's. Oh, we got to change that joke, or I'll change a joke because I can foreshadow that it's going to just be awfulness in the comments.
Is that what, like talking about dinosaur horns or something?
Like we were talking about one, there's this fish that you find it frequently that has another fish that's like half the size of its entire body inside of it, and it usually dies from eating too much. And so there was something like the sentence ended with like, and it tried to swallow it whole, or it ended with swallow. And I was like, you know.
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe we could say its eyes were bigger than its stomach, you know? And so that's like an example of what we would change for me. If it was one of the guys, they probably wouldn't even have, you know? But for me, we changed those. Just, but.
And do the people around you understand that? Because it is a reasonably male office, I would say. Like there are quite a lot of women around, but I get the impression from you talking about it that there's a lot of men involved in the crew.
But yeah, they're 100% empathetic. Yeah. Like they can't believe it and they think it's ridiculous, and they hate commenters because of it, and they don't understand it. Like 100% empathetic. And basically when I first was brought in, they were like, yeah, read the comments, you know, you're the expert, you can chime in on things. And then like 6 months in, I was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. And they're like, we 100% support that decision. Yeah. And was like, if this is not mentally healthy for you anymore, you don't have to do it.
Were people, because obviously they're going to talk about looks and voice and things, were they also commenting on your expertise?
No, not in, it was, anytime my education was brought up, it was like this, like, liberal educated woman is trying to tell me what to think type of thing.
Yeah, about fossil bivalves. Woo!
Yeah, and so most of the time...
Such an agenda, you know.
I know, my liberal feminist agenda is to educate the masses about fossils. And so, most of the time, it was always like this liberal feminist educated agenda that my education was ever brought into it. Yeah. Most of the time, it was appearance, definitely. A lot of things about my appearance, like what I was wearing, how my voice sounds, my gauges, my tattoos, my butt, my lack of boobs, like all of it. Like my entire body was picked apart.
Does that change kind of how you, like how you dress and how much makeup you put on or whatever, but also kind of like your attitude towards making these videos?
At first it did make me a little self-conscious. Like for a while after I saw, like, some people were obviously really popular, like really positive about my tattoos. Oh, wow, those are beautiful, you know? And other people made these huge, like they told my life story because I had tattoos. They knew everything about me, and you know, and like...
Is it a dinosaur tattoo?
No, it's not. It's a bunch of flowers. Like it's pretty botanical stuff, you know? And so...
I was kind of hoping for like a massive sleeve of, you know, T-Rexes and Triceratops.
It's very odd that I have no fossil at all on me. And I have ideas for tattoos. It's just they're expensive, and I don't get small ones anymore because it's a waste of time. So I'd rather chunk down a whole bunch of money for a whole bunch of hours and get a whole big giant piece done, and then it's done, and you don't have to worry about it. And they suck. I love them, but they suck. And so, I did start wearing longer sleeves for a while, and then I was like, you know what, screw it. It's really for me, it's my pit sweat. So whatever can camouflage my pit sweat the best is what I try to wear now. Yeah. So I try not to let what people are gonna say about it bother me so much. And so I'll wear kind of whatever now. I stay out of the comments for the most part. I've always worn makeup. Like anytime I had to, like, we're gonna take pictures of you today, I'm gonna wear makeup. like almost every woman in my family sold Avon and wore makeup.
wow, okay.
And so I've had it around me my entire life. And so it does help me. Like I don't have full face on today. I don't have Eon's face on today, but like I knew I was going to be on camera. So a little bit, you know.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I got my little powder sheets out.
Yeah.
I've been moisturising a lot. I knew there were going to be bright lights, so I don't want to be completely blinding the camera with my oily sheen.
Yeah, so I take steps to make myself feel better, but I don't think I would ever be able to film an Eons episode without like full face makeup on.
Okay.
I think I would feel way too self-conscious about it, and I don't know why that is. If that's just a society beauty standard, if it's my own weird thing in my head, if I would just rather see my skin in one shade of pale instead of 10 shades of red and some pale thrown in, you know, like, I don't know. These lights do, oh man, they are bright lights.
They are insane. Yeah.
Bright lights. And I feel like sometimes it does help to have makeup on. Like I put a lot of blush on for Eons.
And it disappears.
Yeah, and it basically, I don't get washed out, but like it does make...
So these lights, you can't see them, but they are maybe about 1.5 meters long, 4 fluorescent tubes each. There are 2 of them. And so this is properly stage lighting. Like it is uncomfortable to look at them
for a long time. And my teleprompter is right in between.
In the dark. Yeah.
Like I have 2 on each side. One pointed kind of behind me and one pointed right at me. And so I'm like looking through.
Yeah.
So
there's always going to be some need for stage makeup when you've got such big stage lights as these.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel more comfortable about that. I'm over it for the most part. And I think because I don't read them anymore. Yeah. Also, our commenters now, like we've gotten this really positive community, and we also have our banned words list. And so that helps keep it real positive, and our commenters upvote a lot and downvote, and so a lot of those.
And you're not novel to them anymore.
Yeah, no, we're a team, we're a group, we're friends now. So a lot of times people will get on and just be like, no, and it'll bury it so far that nobody's ever going to see that comment.
Who do you aim for in terms of your audience?
Man, I don't even know. I thought we were aiming we tried. This has been interesting. This has been figuring it out too. I think we have settled into high school to college range.
Okay.
But I get people that email me all the time that are like, my 6-year-old loves your show. And I'm like, do they love my show?
Kids love dinosaurs.
I know, but like, are they picking it all up, or are they really watching it for our illustrations and stuff? Like they're getting something out of it, but I don't know if they're getting the full story. Because
when I volunteered at museums, the 6-year-old kids always, without a doubt, knew more than I did about dinosaurs.
Man, they know so much. Yeah. So much. It's a little intimidating. Yeah. Once I get into like the 4th and 5th grade, especially with tours, I'm like, oh, I gotta get my A game on today. Yeah. These kids are gonna show me up. So I think we're kind of an all ages deal.
Have you seen the analytics? Do you know what the actual audience looks like?
I think we do skew older, and older being probably 18 to 30.
Okay, yeah.
Male.
Yeah. Do you know how male?
We're pretty male. I thought we weren't that male, and we're like really male. We're like 90%.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, that is it. I mean, the vast majority of science channels I've spoken to have been skewed male, but yeah, 1995 is at the higher end.
Yeah, it's pretty, and I was like, oh no, we're probably like 60-40.
Yeah,
everybody loves ancient life. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. And it's still like, that's $1 million question. How to get girls to watch science channels? I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea.
If you go back through the Save Science series, you will see probably about 80% of them are like, how do we do it? Where are all the women?
I don't know. So we're probably too damn busy to watch YouTube. That's what it is.
Yeah, we're too busy finding the dinosaurs to watch videos about dinosaurs.
Right? I gotta go get them myself, man. Yeah. I don't got time for this. So I don't know. I don't know where they are. But I will say the most outreach from the community I get personally is from parents of daughters that love the show, and they're glad that there's a female paleontologist out there that their girls can look up to. Yeah. Because I got this email the other day, and they're grade school age kids, and this little girl was like, I want to be a paleontologist. And this little boy was like, girls can't be paleontologists. I know. I was like, what? It was like scratching.
I can't believe people still say that. I don't think I ever had anyone say to me when I was growing up that I couldn't be something because I was a girl.
I don't think I did either.
I mean, luckily I was at a girls' school, so it does make things slightly easier for me, but still.
I mean, yeah, maybe one time, but I must have been like, whatever. Like, and so like she kind of got disheartened about it. She came home, you know, she's like, is this true, Dad? Yeah. He's like, no. And so he found Eons and he found me, and she watched some of my episodes. I got back and I was like, oh, I'm so glad. And I sent him a list of a whole bunch of like women in science. And there's actually quite a few women in paleontology children's books out there now. And so I sent him a whole list.
Mary Anning.
Yeah. There's lots of books on her, but there's other ones too that look at like the field of paleontology as a whole and women that study specifics within it.
Nice.
And so, yeah, I sent him a list of books that would be like, oh, and here's also why you're wrong. And let me turn to this page, and this is why you're wrong.
Yeah.
And this is why you're wrong.
I love the librarian in you. It's like, I'm going to give you some books.
I do love books. I love books so much.
How have your academic peers responded to you doing Eons?
They've really, it's been pretty exciting. Everybody's been like, yes, I feel like this is what you should have always been doing. Like, this is perfect for you.
Yeah.
And I've also had a lot of friends like, like, how can I bring you to my university and have you visit me, but also give a talk about like Eons and what you're doing and stuff like that. So it's been very supportive. Everybody's been really supportive and understands how big of a deal it is.
Do you think you would ever do like presenting and this side of things full time instead of doing it half and half?
You know, I've thought about that, and I've kind of made a brand for myself. I'm the fossil librarian on Instagram. And I actually stole every handle for every social media account known to man for fossil librarian, and I don't use any of them, but I stole them at least. They're mine if I want to do them. But Instagram is where it's at for me, and so I would feel weird, like, if I used to be a collections manager and I'm not anymore, can I still be a fossil librarian? You know, like ex-fossil librarian, I guess. But this is so much fun, and the more I do it, the more I want to be involved with it. The people here in this building are like the most amazing group of people I've ever been around. And so like surrounding myself with that positivity and just the chillness, the just relative chillness of it all.
There are dogs here.
There are dogs here. And I mean, I work on campus and everybody straight up ignores the rule that you can't have anything but a service dog in the building. So there are dogs all over our department as well. But I don't want to sound too frou-frou, but the energy that's around you in an academic setting versus this building is like
night and day.
Yeah, it's much different. And I don't want to say academics is oppressive or anything, but there's you know, everybody is slightly stressed out all the time, and I'm not saying they're not like
stressed out.
Slightly.
There is a lot of stress, but also I think that it's a lot more traditional, and we're doing it in a way that has been done, whereas in a new media company like this,
you can kind of,
I don't know how we can do that. Let's just, try.
Yeah, and it works, and everybody's happy. When people are happy, they work better.
Yeah.
And so, being more involved with Eons and the content, writing scripts. I would love to write scripts. And now that I've read a lot of scripts now. And so I kind of understand how the flow goes, and I have a million ideas for scripts.
Oh.
I mean,
you got a big list.
Actually, I think I do have a written down list somewhere. I have too many lists. I need to combine all my lists into one list. But yeah, I mean, with 4 billion years of life history, I mean, the topics are endless. Endless.
What video are you proudest of?
Ooh, that's a good one. I really liked that Raptor Rex episode that I was telling you about came out of a response from a horrendous comment backlash from one of our episodes that we did. But we learned very quickly, if you're going to talk about T-Rex, you better have everything spelled out as clearly as humanly possible, and all sides must be represented, because he gets a lot of attention and a lot of people, he, she, it. I say it's an it. I don't actually think there was male and female personally. But so like...
What, for T-Rexes?
Yeah.
Wait, what? You don't think that there were two sexes for T-Rex?
Well, I think there were, but I don't think it was as big of a binary system as we think today. So lizards themselves are anywhere on the gender spectrum. You can have same old binary male and female. You can have whole populations of female that one turns male. You can have hermaphrodites that can be both. And so like we don't see a lot of sexual dimorphism in certain dinosaurs.
Okay.
And so at least we haven't been able to tell right now. And T-Rex is one of them. We can't tell. We have one female skeleton now that we found from medullatory bone. So actually cutting the bone apart, looking at it underneath a microscope, and we're like, oh, boom. This is a female, because that bone can only be made by an egg-laying female.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that she was a female all the time, or that there were non-females in the population, or anything like that. And so there's...
Because you get a lot of parthenogenetic lizards, don't you?
Yeah.
So who needs males? Maybe all the T-Rexes are females.
Maybe that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of reasons why they didn't survive the KT extinction event, but maybe that's one of the reasons why. If you have an entire population that's basically a clone of one dominant female, that's a dangerous game to play. Yeah. Anything changes, and if it changes quickly, there's no variance in your population that could deal with it. And so that's just me. I have no science to back that up. At all.
But there's no science that specifically goes one way or the other.
True. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. But that was kind of a fun one because we wrapped it around this idea of dating. Like, how do you date a fossil? And then we used...
I thought you meant like dating. You said, so we're going to go for a nice little coffee somewhere and...
No, actually put an age date on them. And using Raptor-X as this example, but it was an oddball example to use because it can't be dated at this time. And so, we went through this whole thing like, oh, this is how we would date something, but we can't do it with this specimen because. So another way that you can date something is this way.
And we still can't do it.
We still can't do it. And so it was kind of this interesting way to talk about relative and radiometric dating with this fossil that's incredibly controversial. The other two episodes that I had so much fun was our off-site episodes. So we actually went to the Museum of the Rockies, which is like 3 hours to the east of here, and interviewed two female scientists there, their collections manager, so like my equivalent, and their paleohistology lab manager. So she's the one cutting apart all the dinosaur bones and looking for cool stuff, basically. And that was so much fun. Those were like my funnest episodes. I absolutely loved it. We want to do a lot more of that.
I was going to say, do you want to do some more out of the studio stuff?
Yeah, and I think we're going to get to next year.
I mean, you're in the state of the fossils, right? Like you're surrounded by fossils in Montana.
Yeah, we've had, it's just field thing, filming off-site is expensive. And also, so many people here do so many things. Like, you can't take a whole crew out for such an extended amount of time because they can't work on all the other things that they need to work on. So that's a huge logistical issue. Like, basically, we can go out for like a weekend and come back because like this film guy needs to film 2 other shows this week, And so right now it's kind of like, oh yeah, we'd love to go spend a week out in the field, but who do we have that could spend a week out in the field? So we'll get there.
Sounds tough. And what is one thing that you wish that the audience knew about you or your channel that you don't think they know? Because you don't often get to speak to the camera as you. You're reading a script.
I'm me. I'm just me. Well, so this is one of my pet peeves, actually. Saber-toothed tiger. That's my pet peeve. It's a cat. It's a saber-toothed cat. It's not a tiger. It didn't have stripes. It's not related to modern tigers at all. No, like saber-toothed cats are like over here and modern big cats are over here and domesticated cats are like over here. They like share a common ancestor.
So the Smilodons, right? Are Smilodons equally related to modern domestic and modern tigers.
Modern big cats and modern domestic cats are more closely related than Smilodons are to either of those.
So it's just as accurate to say that they're tigers as it is to say that...
So a tiger is actually a very specific type of big cat. So a tiger is the striped one that lives in Asia.
Yeah.
It's orange and it's great. That is a tiger.
Yeah.
That's 100% a tiger. And technically that's the only thing that can be called a tiger. Mm-hmm. They're all felids though. They're all cats. And Smilodon is in the family Felidae, which is a cat.
Yeah.
So technically it is saber-toothed cat. We have a saber-toothed cat on display at the university. And every single tour group ends with them all saying together now, saber-toothed cat. I don't know why it bugs the shit out of me, but it does. It's saber-toothed cat, you guys. Saber-toothed cat.
Saber-toothed cat.
Saber-toothed cat.
Saber-toothed cat. I'll just be sticking with Smilodon because I kind of like the idea that they're smiling.
I know. And they're big, giant teeth.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I recently just got to visit the La Brea tar pits for the first time.
Oh, yeah?
It was like a dream come true.
Was it?
It was so
Do they
awesome.
have lots of saber-toothed
so
cats
many
there?
So the La Brea is amazing because it's actually a predator trap. So normally in a normal ecosystem, you don't see the predators usually fossilized at the same rate as the herbivores. Mm-hmm. And so it's the exact opposite at La Brea is because you would have these nasty tar pits. They're incredibly sticky. Mm-hmm. I couldn't believe it. They have this display where they have these big pieces of metal in the tar that's contained. You can't touch it or anything. Mm-hmm. And you have to try to pull it out of the tar. It is really hard. Yeah. Like I would, nope. If Kallie got her leg stuck in, I would just lay there and have to die. Yeah. Because I wouldn't be able to get out of it.
It's just surely not still sticky, the bits that are fossilized?
Oh yeah.
Is it?
It's gross. Like I feel for the people that work on those
how
specimens.
do you dig them out?
You have to like basically dam up the tar and take these big, well, a lot of times what they do is just take big blocks of it that's not as sticky anymore. It's kind of created like a harder, grosser, stickier substance. So instead of like, it's like chewed gum that's been under a table versus chewed gum that you pull out of your mouth.
Yeah, tacky rather than sticky.
Exactly. Okay. And so you can pull out these big blocks and slowly work through the tackier, older tar. But there's still tar that's fresh and gooey and you can just like pull a finger out of it and it's all drippy and you gotta wait for all the tar to drip off of it. And, yeah, but anywho, so you get something that gets stuck, say you're a mammoth or mastodon or something, you get stuck in it and you start freaking out and you distress call and all of these predators around are like, oh hey, dinner bells.
Wow, and then they get stuck.
So dire wolves are actually the most common fossil found at La Brea. It's because the entire freaking pack would jump in and they'd all get stuck.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was probably a pretty hellacious place back in the day. Yes, smelly, smelly awfulness. But the fossils themselves are just wonderful, wonderfully preserved. And you have everything. You have insects, you have pollen, you have plants, you have birds, you have rodents, you have, I mean, it just goes all the way up. Like it's a picture perfect snapshot of what Southern California was like 50,000 years ago. So it's really neat. Yeah.
Once you've washed all the tar off.
Once you washed all the tar off. I used to be like kind of jealous of people that got to work at La Brea, and now I'm like,
I'll stick with limestone.
No, I'm okay with that. Yeah, all right.
Cool.
You do your thing.
Well, on that note, where can people find you on the internet?
So you can find, obviously, at youtube.com/eons for eons, patreon.com/eons if you'd like to support us and get to see some fun behind-the-scenes stuff. Yeah. And then also Instagram. Eons has a page, and myself, Fossil Librarian. And that's it. That's all I do.
No Twitter?
No Twitter. I tried to. I'm not witty enough. I'm not quick wit enough for Twitter. I love the responses that people get on Twitter.
I love Twitter.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. I wish I was quick enough for Twitter. Yeah.
But for now, it's just beautiful photos on Instagram.
Yep. Beautiful photos on Instagram.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, good. And see you for another Sofa Science. Who knows when in the future. Bye.